And welcome back to Butcher That Model. It's reading a book. It's a good book. That's about. There's a film, TV series. It's a good book. It's all in your head. You can picture it. And I thought, well, why can't you picture it properly? Why can't you have a representation of the thing in the book leaping out of the book when you're not actually reading it? So I had a little play. What is? I had a little play with resin. Look at that. So a prototype. That is a Revell 1144, sorry. Type 7C U-boat, cast in resin. It was an experiment. I had fun doing it. Resin art. The subject of the book in the book. I thought, what a cool idea. I wonder if you can do other things apart from just water effects. So we're going to have a go. What we've got to lose apart from 20-30 pounds worth of resin. Let's put that down here for a minute. Carefully. Right, so give me a quick move. There you go. Right. Let's get that out of the way. We don't need that for a minute. I had in my stash of model kits, I had a little 1/72 Spitfire. And as I was in town the other week, I come across this. A book of the Spitfire. The Spitfire story, told by those who designed, maintained and flew the iconic plane. A book by Jack Hims. It's quite interesting actually. It's got some pretty cool photos as well in it. And having a little 1/72 Spitfire that I've now built, what I'm going to try and do, the Spitfire flying out of the Spitfire book. So we're going to try and represent air. And over the next, this is going to take about a week to 10 days. Because the thing with the resin I'm using is you can only pour a certain amount before you run the risk of it cracking. And if it cracks at any point, it's totally ruined. And we don't want to do that. So this is probably going to take about 7 to 10 days of resin work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to film it over the period. So I'll show you how it works. The first thing you need, apart from resin, obviously, is perspex sheet or acrylic sheet, depending on where you live in the world and what they call it. How much you get all the sheets, A3 size sheets. Online for a reasonable price. And what I've done, I've put Spitfire up there for a minute, but we don't need him for a few days. I've made a mould to pour the resin into. Now, how are we going to represent air? Well, we're going to use a false perspective, really. We're going to do the ground. It's going to be very thin on the bottom. And then once that's dried and cured, we'll add some flock in and some colours and make it look like broken, fields. Like we'll sort of get a field that way and a field that way, and just three different colours or 3 different shades, and just to represent some sort of field system underneath. We're going to do clouds. Now, I think I've come up with a way of doing it. This is all experimental stuff, really. I think I've come up with a way of doing it using polyfiber. Now, the polyfiber is what I used to do the water effect, the splash effect of the U-boat coming out of the water. Underneath, it looked quite good, actually. So, I think it'll work. And obviously, we're going to, towards the end, we're going to get the Spitfire sort of like that. So it's coming out of the, and then it'll all, when it's all dried and cured and all looking nice and wonderful, and we'll be able to stick it in the book. That's the plan. Resin book art. That's what we're going to do. So, how are we going to start? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to represent the ground. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to pour some resin tonight in the bowl, stained brown resin, and then leave it to dry, and then tomorrow evening after work, when I come home, it should be perfectly dry and cured and wonderful, and then we can get down to putting some flock in, PVA, and flock it, leave that to dry, and then the next day we'll start building up the resin. It's only going to, each day is probably going to be like 2 or 3 minutes long, but I'm going to edit this so it's just one long, well, not long, but just one video. So it's going to condense 7 to 10 days down into one reasonable video, hopefully. Right, so let's crack on. Put the motor one side for a minute. Set that on there. Now then, we want our resin. We want a set of scales, because this resin I'm using is 2 parts to 1, and it's done by weight. So turn on said scales. There we go. And we'll do 106 grams. So that's showing between 5 and 6 grams. So we'll just do, we'll put 100 grams in of this one. $97, 99, 100. And then we want the 5 or 6 grams for the weight of the cup, don't we? 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Now the beauty of this stuff, it's not like your 5-minute epoxy that you get in the 2 tubes. This takes a long time. This takes a good couple of hours for it to even to start to go hard. So that's the beauty of this stuff. So put that there, and then we want this one. And we want half of that. So we want roughly 52.5 to 53 of the hardener. So we'll go for 53. I'll take into account the weight of the cup as well. We do lose a tiny bit in the cups as well. 57, 50, 2, 3. There we go. Now we want to stain that. And it doesn't matter what we use, we'll use a paint or an ink. Because it's ground, we want it to be a pretty solid looking brown colour. So I'm just going to use some paint. I'm just going to stick in some Citadel iron oxide. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to literally pour a little bit into it. I don't normally recommend using Citadel paints for anything other than miniature painting, because the size of pot you get and what you pay is quite expensive. So let's move said scales now, we don't need that now. And then pour in part number 2. Actually, looking like that, looks like some sort of brown lava lamp at the moment. Like I said, we are going to get some through wastage as it sticks to the plastic cups. Now, this resin I'm using, I haven't been, I paid for this, I've bought some more actually, my second lot. The resin I'm using, my resin of choice, is from a German company called Depoxy, and this cost about £28 for 1.5 kilos worth, and I love this stuff. I have not been paid for this in a paid promotion by Depoxy of Germany in any way, shape or form. I physically paid for this stuff myself. This is the second lot I've bought, and I love this stuff. It's fantastic. It's extremely low odour. Really, you can hardly smell it, which is great, because one thing I was worried about was stinking the house out, and my wife not being impressed with the fact that all she can smell for 7 to 10 days is the smell of resin. But this doesn't smell at all. This particular one I'm using is actually designed for use on, for acrylic art, for using on tables. You know, people do art where the tabletops, or they'll use a natural slice of tree trunk and pour resin on it. Or you may have seen people that do it with coins, like where they'll make a frame around the table. Or even, I've seen people even do the flooring with a couple of £100 worth of pennies. And then you pour this resin in over the top of it and it sets it up. It's that sort of stuff. It's good stuff. It's fantastic. But I like it purely because it's a decent work time, and the fact that it don't stink. So it is good stuff. It's actually called, the one I've got is the Epoxy 2K700. Alright, so if you're after a resin for doing this sort of stuff, that's what I recommend. It is fantastic stuff, and it's quite reasonably priced at the end of the day for a resin, which isn't cheap stuff to buy. Right, now we've got it. Now, I've learnt this from the past, from a failed attempt once before. Just really got some boxes. I've got, don't worry about me back. As you can tell, I'm extremely well organised. All the planning, as always. I'm going to put it in that, which is an old aluminium disposable baking tray. It's like 50p each. They're great. They're fantastic for having in your model making room, your man cave, whatever. And all I'm going to do today is literally pour it in. Now that's about the level I want. I've actually done a bit too much, but it doesn't matter. That's about the level we want for the ground, because then it gives us a nice little area to make the field effect on. Just don't remember, we're going for a forced perspective look as it's looking down. So that's all we're going to do for today. We're just going to leave that now to harden off overnight, and then when I'm at work all day tomorrow, and it'll be good and hard and ready for tomorrow, where the next time you see me, which for me will be 24 hours ish, for you it'll be like a nanosecond, because it's you know time machine. But so I'll pause this now. You'll notice the change because the t-shirt will be different every day. You'll have to work out what t-shirts old Fatty's got on. Right, see you in a second, in a minute, in 24 hours. Time machine. Time machine things say it's 24 hours later ish. You can tell that the t-shirt's changed, and this is now totally set and hard and lovely and not good anyway. So what we're going to do is now we're going to represent some sort of field system. So how are we going to do that? Well, I've got the idea we'll use a bit of a paper mask, and we want to come up with 3 or 4 fields. So what I'll do is like that, and then we'll have it sort of that way, shall we? We'll have a field like that, and then this one. Right, and then what we'll do, hopefully, what we can do is we can PVA glue, join them together on it, apart from one, put the flock on, put the mask over the top, lift the next one off. Hopefully, it should work. It's the plan. It might not. It might look a bit higgledy-piggledy, but we'll have a go. This is all experimental stuff, so we'll give it a go. Right, so we just want to bit of a brush. Bit of a knackered one. Yeah, no, it's pretty much all of them. Right, so we'll slap some PVA down. And just paint it on. And then what we're going to do, once we've done this bit, is we're going to leave it to dry. Now, it's probably going to take a couple of hours for this to dry, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it overnight. And that way it's well and truly stuck down, and we're not going to get any, hopefully we shouldn't get any interaction between the resin and the PVA. I don't think we would do, but just to be on the safe side, once it's properly cured and that, it's going to have less chance of reacting. I'm not sure whether it would or not, but I'm not going to risk it. There's no point risking it. At the end of the day, if it takes a day longer to do this, if it takes a day longer, doesn't matter. One thing about model making and this sort of stuff, it's not a race. Doesn't matter if it takes you 6 months to do a model kit, or a year, or a week. It really doesn't matter. Alright, so I'll whack some PVA down in there. And we'll pop our mask down. So that one there. That one there. That one there. And that one there. So now that they're in and down, it's a bit simple job to lift them off with tweezers. The tweezers are much tweezering. Right, so we'll do that one off first. And we're literally just going to plonk some flop down. We just want the edges to be pretty perfect. And that. Right, and we'll use another brush. And literally static grass of like 1/2 mil, so it got clumpy. We don't want it clumpy. Not really, not clumpy. That, no, because that'll look like trees at the edge of it, which is what we want. What I'm tempted to do is get some watered down PVA. That's what we want. Mix it with a bit of PVA. Plonk him down there. And he will make a perfectly serviceable tree. I'll just do that again actually. PVA. In the flock. Oh, quite like that idea. And the scale we're looking for, that'll do. Right, so what we want to do now, just plonk that one down, just on the edge, and lift this one up. Plonking down, a bit more PVA on that. It's all experimental stuff. And what we'll do is we'll change colour. I'll leave that there though, because I quite like that tree effect. We'll do that again in a minute. What's that one? Right, this one is like a it's got lots of colours in this one. Don't know what it is, if it's field or something, some sort of crop. Right. Put the lid on that. Wash it off that one. I'm not bothered about that one because it's. I'm going to plonk this back down, which is that way. I'll lift this one. Press that edge down so that it's going to define it. This might work, you know. It might not, but it might. I'll PVA down. Get another colour. Sprinkle it on. Mask him off. The only edge we need to worry about is this one. Lipstick down. Thank you. Right. And then we'll go back to this original. Do we? No, let's find something else. Let's find something else. What else we got? Oh. Oh. Hayfield. Well, this is 6mm, but we're not going to use it as static glass, we're just going to use it as a flock, so it should lay down and not stand up. We don't want it standing up 6mm because that would be like 30-foot high cone. And the effect we're going for, which won't look very convincing. Oh, hay, sorry. Hey! Let's split a bit more down. Now, come in there. Right, now hopefully that'll look like some sort of hayfield because we've still got bits of the brown earth showing through there, which is theoretically what we would have. I'll just tamp him down. Make sure none of them standing up 6mm because that just totally ruin the entire effect we're going for. Right, and that's it. All we're going to do today. We could lift them now, I suppose. Yeah, let's lift up. And then we'll see the effect. That's given us, oh yes, that'll do it. That'll do it. Once that's fully dried, and then had resin poured on top of it. Now I think that looks like the best representation I'm going to get of patchwork fields. I just wanted that different colour variation so you can tell 4 different fields there, and that will give us the height force perspective, hopefully. Right, so next time you see this, be in a nanosecond for you, it'll be 24 hours for me, and we'll start pouring some resins. So I'll see you in a nanosecond, 24 hours. It's time machine. Where's that pause button? Oh, there it is. Time machine thing again, isn't it? Well, it's the next day. Right, what have we done? I did a little tiny bit off camera. What I did was I used that technique where I was mixing flock with PVA, 50-50-ish, to form 3 things, and I've done it in between the fields to give us some sort of definition and illusion of height. When we start raising up and pouring up and adding clouds, and that's going to give us hopefully our false perspective of that's like 150 feet below us sort of thing. Right, what else have I done? Now I used a technique stolen from model wear people, and that's a thing called wet water. Sounds daft, doesn't it? It's wet water. Water's wet. What this is wet water. Now it's a mixture, it's 50-50 basically of isopropyl alcohol and distilled water. And what you do is, once you've got you put your PVA down and you put your flock on, what they do is you leave it to dry for a day, and then they come back in and mist it with wet water, and then using a mix of 25% PVA and water, they then spray that over the top of the flock, leave that to dry, and it seals it and it stops it from, it actually toughens it up. It's actually very good. What this does is it breaks the tension, the water tension. So as soon as you spray this on and then you spray your PVA water mix, it instantly soaks in. If you try to do it just with PVA and water, it will just sit on the top and won't actually work. So we're breaking the water tension, it just soaks straight in. And that's what I did last night. Left it to dry, I've been at work all day, and that's the stage we're up to now. So hopefully that's perfectly sealed in now, because the last thing we want is little bits floating up when we start pouring the resin, and that's what we're going to do now. We're just going to do a small pour, literally probably 50 gram and 25 gram pour, and that will then totally harden it up and seal it all in, and then we're good to go then. Touch wood. That's the plan. Don't forget, this is all experimental stuff. I've never seen anybody doing this before, so we'll have a crack. We can only try these things, that's the whole point of it. Right, so we'll put that on one side a second, and we'll get our scales. Dink. Turn them on. Hello, you sexy scales. There you go, that worked. Turned on. Right, so we want a bit of a shake. We want 50 grams of part A, and then we need 25 grams of the other one. Right, so that's saying 6, so 56. Watch, that's gone to 61. Oops. Just put a little bit back in that. Da-da-da. 56. Which means we want 28 on part B. That's a bit of glare, sorry. Right, so 28. 24, 25, 26, 28. Right, put that down there. And then what we're going to do, tip that into there. And then we'll leave that for a second or two. Let's lean it against that. Lean. Probably not. No, it's not, is it? That will be hoping for too much. Just hold it. I won't wipe off what we spilled on the scales. Not that it matters, because I didn't pinch my wire scales. She would have shouted at me, so I went and nipped into Argos and paid £10 for these ones. Which actually they're really nice little scales. I'm quite chuffed with them. Right, so we'll give that a good mix now. Now we're not going to add anything to this now. No colours. If this was water, we'd be adding X amount of blue inks, but we're not. We'll give them a good stir. You want to stir it, but you don't want too mad. We don't want lots and lots and lots of air balls. The last thing we want is air bubbles in it as well. So stir him round. Now this is good stuff. Like I said earlier, it's not a 5-minute epoxy glue. You've got to rush like mad. We've all got limited working time. You've got a good hour with this stuff. It's fine. Right then. Stick that somewhere there for a minute. And then we get to the scales. Get our mould back in. And very, very gently, I'm going to start filling it up. Not filling it up, just pouring this amount in. Very gently. And then all we need to do is we need to pop all these little bubbles like there. Now let's stick again, and we'll just make sure we haven't got any major bubbles. It's the last thing we want on each pour, because it's clear. We want it to be clear. We don't want bubblage. Right then. Now, hopefully, that's now going to go and have some sort of adverse reaction with things. So, there we go. The first resin pour is done. Right then, I'll see you in the nanosecond, 24 hours for me, and then we'll start to do pours, and then we'll probably do 2 pours, which is just going to be very basic, boring, plain pours, and then we'll start doing clouds and things. Hopefully it's going to work. Touching wood. I'll see you in a second, in a minute. It's time machine. And all that. Right, we're back. Right, so it's been 24 hours for me, and it seems to be working. The thing that was worrying me was the colours in the flock leaching, but we're doing that, sealing it with wet water and PVA. It hasn't happened. I'm really quite chuffed with that. It seems to have done the job, and I don't know if you can get that from here, but we've also got now, if you look side on, we've also got the height of the trees and hedgerow sort of thing, separating the fields. So that's worked quite well. I'm pleased with that. So what we're going to do now, today's one, is just a basic 50 gram pour. Basically, nothing exciting. We'll see how high up it gets, and then we're going to start using our polyfiber for fields. What I've done is I've just sprayed the underside in grey with my airbrush, because if you look at clouds, they're not pure white fluffy things. The shadows are grey at the bottom, and the shadows and things like that, and the light hits the top. And so we'll see how far we get, how far the pour goes. If we don't get high enough today, then it'll be tomorrow's pour that we start. What I hope is going to happen is, if we put polyfiber straight in the resin, it's going to compress it. Just the weight of the liquid is going to compact it down. We don't want that. We want it to be as light as we can. So what we're going to try and do is, we might get it today, to the stage today, where we can start sitting this on the top. And hopefully, what I'm hoping is going to happen is the capillary action is going to draw some of the resin up into the fibres and solidify it. So when it goes hard, the next day, we can pour a little bit, put some more resin on top, and then work it like that. And hopefully, I don't know, it might work, it might not. I'm hoping capillary action is going to harden the fluffy part, as it were, so that when we pour on top of it, it's not going to compact it down. That's the theory. Whether or not it works, we don't know. As I said before, this is experimental. I've never seen anybody doing this before. I did it with the U-boat, and it was just basic blue pouring resin and then sitting the sub on it. There was nothing technical really about it. This one, I had to get my head going and try to think, well, you know, how can we achieve what we want to achieve? And so far, gripping wood, not just touching it, it's working so far. So we're just going to do now a straightforward 50 gram pour, and if it's high enough, we can start thinking about starting the clouds. So let's put this to one side for a minute. Oop, I'll take some cloud with it. Let's retrieve that in a minute. So on our scales, we'll do our usual turn them on. I love you sexy scales. That's worked, it's turned on. Right, so 6 grams for the cup, so 56. Not quite. 50. I'm on 58 now, so we'll have to do 29. Part B. It's not major. It's not an issue. A little bit of a mix round. 26. That came away quick then. 28. And as organised and prepared as ever, like I always am, I didn't get a stirry stick. Reach into my stirry stick pot and grab a stirry stick. Right, so we'll turn them off. And donk. Like that. As much of that point as we can. And that's a boring bit, this bit. So it's boring. This one today might be just boring. Right, and then we'll stir. And what we don't want, like I said, we don't want to go mad and vigorous and create lots and lots of air bubbles. Although what I'll do, once you've poured this, is I shall get the hairdryer on it, because heat will dissipate the bubbles as well. A lot of people use a like a blowtorch that you could have in your kitchen for doing creme brulee or whatever you want to call them, where you're caramelising like desserts and things. My wife, she won't let me have one of them. That would be inherently dangerous. Me having something like that, so I'll just whack it with the hairdryer. It'll do the same thing, it'll just take a slightly bit longer. But I'll do that off camera because then it's not driving up the wall with the sound of my hairdryer that I stole from my wife. Which when she found out, I had to buy her a new hairdryer. And wives being wives, it wasn't just like the one she had. It had to be the really nice one that came as a set with straighteners and curlers and all sorts of marvellous things. Good old Remington. But it's my own fault for nicking a hairdryer. I should have just gone to Boots or something and bought a cheap nasty hairdryer myself. There you go. Doesn't matter. Right. So I'll just do a basic pour it in because we're not worried about anything now apart from watching me panic if it starts to leak. Basically, we'll just pour it in. Right, and we're definitely not high enough to start thinking about clouds and things. That's it. And that's about as exciting as it's going to get today. We may have lines. I didn't anticipate that. Never mind. Never mind. It's not designed to be seen from the side, it's designed to be seen from the top. So if you look sideways, I think what we're going to get, and we're not going to be able to avoid it, is we're going to, we're going to get lines in between each pour because we are using a purely clear resin, not a stain one. If we were using a stain, you wouldn't actually see the line. If you look on the U-boat, there is no lines between the pours. But primarily, this is meant to be seen in the book, not as a wedge outside the book. So I'm not too bothered because the pages of the book will hide that anyway. But it's unavoidable when you're doing clear resin pours, obviously. I have no way of working out how we could possibly avoid that happening unless we dyed the resin, which isn't going to work in this case because we want air. At the end of the day, we're trying to represent the atmosphere. But never mind, it is what it is. Okay, so I will see you in a nanosecond tomorrow for me. So all I can say is it's that time machine thing that people take the mickey about me doing, but I don't care. It's time machine. I'll see you tomorrow in a nanosecond. Well, we're back again. So let's get on and do another pour. Come on, we're getting there. There's some height in it. Let's put that there for a sec. Right. So my cups, you want the scales. Turn them on. Her sexy things. There you go. They're on. So let's do now we can only pour this to a certain depth. So I'm going to do double what we have been doing because now we're getting to the point where it's starting to get wider. So we can use more. We're still going to give us about the same depth, about an inch. But the area that we're filling, as it's a wedge shape, is obviously getting wider, so we can go more. Under that, 50 of that. That's 50 of this one. Nearly that. 35, 37. There we go. Right then. And then straight in there. And that's just get it. Ooh, the wipe. What we spilled. Turn the scales off. That's it. That's that done. Right. Stirring time. Just give this a good old mix. That's boring bit, isn't it? Come on. And then we'll see how deep we get. We may start to layer in cloud. This goes deep enough. That makes sense. About ready there. Put it back in. There we go. And now we're at the stage where definitely high enough now. I'll start putting cloud in. We don't want huge amounts. Right. There. About there. Now, I'm going to leave that now. And hopefully, what will happen is the capillary reaction will draw the resin so far up the fibre so it will harden, and then tomorrow we can pour some more resin and then do the same again. Put some more fibre on the top of that one, and then it'll soak up, and then that should hopefully gripping wood and touching wood, and that should work. So we'll see you in a nanosecond in 24 hours. It's a strange thing, this time machine. Right, we're at that stage now where we can start to get. I did a bit of a test fit last night, and we're ready to start putting the Spitfire in. So let's do a normal pour. Right. Turn the scales on. Sexy things. Turn on. There you go. Come on. What's going on here? Oh, yeah, hang on. Hang on. We'll do that again. Let's start that again. Right there. That's better. That's better. And what? That there. The scales are on their own weight. On their own ounces and grams, and confused me then for a second. Got that. Let's just check that. 50. Yeah. We're good now. Right, so we'll stick that there. Turn the scales off. Tips that in there. Have a swig of tea. And then we'll start stirring. Stir and stir. The good thing about this stuff as well, what I like is, it starts off when you mix the two, it's quite cloudy. And then when it's all mixed properly, it goes clear. And there's no cloudiness in it. I quite like that. That's a good indication of, yeah, that's stirring enough. Right. Then what I want to do is I want to put a little bit more polyfibre onto the clouds to bulk them up a little bit. I'll stick that there. And it is only tiny, tiny bits. What's that? That's it. That's what I want. A tiny bit. Onto the wing like that's coming through the cloud. That's what we want. Right, and then we'll just pour it in. And then we go. And we'll just leave that now. Another 24 hours. And I'll see you then. What time is it? Right, time for another pour. 24 hours later. So let's get on and just do a pump. We'll go for another 150. That's at 100. And then we want a 50 of part 2. 44, 50. Take that down there. Still a bit on the scale, I'll clean that up in a minute. That. Right. And then I'll then mix in the stir down. Put that in there. And we're probably looking at another 2 or 3 pours at least. Because obviously the higher we get, the more surface area we get to fill in, with it being a wedge shape. So we'll just give him a good old stir. Make sure it's well and truly mixed. Because now we start to lock the Spitfire in. If it cracks at any stage now, it's in the bin and it's starting all over again from scratch. So fingers crossed. That's always the worry when you're working with resin, is you get the measurements wrong, or you don't stir it enough, or there's a big temperature flux. There's lots and lots of reasons why resin can crack. So it is. There's nothing's ever risk-free when you're working with this stuff. But that's the nature of the beast. There. Bring him in and then we'll just pour away. I think we're definitely looking at another at least 2 pours after this one. There we go. Make sure it's all just blow hot breath over the top of it. Now we can get to it. The bubbles burst. Bubbles on the surface. Right, and that's it for today. We'll see you in a nanosecond. Time machine. We're back again. Right, it's actually been 36 hours. So, because it's a bigger pour, I thought I'd leave it a bit of a longer time, and it's got the rock out down. So we can get on and do another £150 pour. And I've actually managed to get this week some half-pint disposable glasses, which should be a little bit better than using the big pint ones. Right, so let's crack on. Let's turn the sexy scales on. Use sexy things. There you go. Turn them on. Works every time. And then we'll start doing a pour. So we want 100 grams of that one. Do 80, 98, 99. It's like filling your car up at the petrol station, isn't it? You've all done it. £19.99. You want to get 20 quid in. and then it goes to £20 and a penny. I'll do. You know the struggle. Let's put that there, and then we'll 50 of this one. $75. 47, 48, 49, 50. There we go. There. So I wiped the scale down. I'm actually even more organised today. Because I always manage to spill a tiny bit. So we'll turn them off. We don't need them now. Put them down there for a second. And we'll start the mixings. Get in there. Drip, drip, drip. Don't watch this if you want to go to the toilet. There, that'll do. Right, and then we'll give them a good old stirring round. And a good old mixings. It's amazing how it just goes cloudy, and then you keep mixing and mixing and mixing, and it goes clear again. Clever that. It's good stuff. I like this stuff. And so the only downside with it is the depth of pour you can do with this stuff. But we're not in a rush. And doing it in slow stages like this is less risk of it cracking. Because like I said earlier, once you get to this stage and then it cracks, it's in the bin. There's nothing you can do to retrieve that. And when you're looking at about £50 a go, it's not worth the risk. So I'd rather do it this way, in smaller pours, over time. The only damage, like I said, if I was doing a side-on view, then I'd get different stuff that you can do in a big pour. I'm on the risk because you do get the pour lines doing it this way, but it doesn't bother us because we're looking this way at it, so it won't affect it. It won't affect us one little bit. It's the pages of the book will cover the sides. So we'll give them good old mixings and mixings. Let's clear up a treat now. That's nicely mixed. We'll get this one in and then we'll see if we need to do another big pour or a smaller pour in 24 hours. Hopefully it'll just be one smaller pour. Another sort of 75 half size pour. Which hopefully that will do us the job. So let's pour him in. Let it find its own level. Oh yeah. Well, I reckon we could do another big one tomorrow. I think that will take another big pour tomorrow. And then that should be it. We'll leave it then. I'm tempted to leave it for about 36 hours. Totally harden off again, the same as I've just done, before we strip the perspex off the side of it. Yeah, I'll get another big pour tomorrow. And then we should be good to go. Well, so I'll see you in a nanosecond in 24 hours. It's that thing again. I can't help but do it now. I've got to do it now because I know it winds people up. So I'll keep the time machine. We're back again. Right, it's been about 36 hours. just to give that time to get good and hard, and it's good and hard. So this may be the last pot, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. There may have to be another one after this. So we'll just wait and see how much, how high this actually gets. So back to our usual 100 grams of this one. $80, 96, 97. 100. And that's a 50 of this one. Right then, and then we made a mess again. Always end up spilling a drop, don't I? I don't know why. Always end up dropping a drop. Proving a drop on that. Right, so we'll turn them off now. Stick that down there. Pour that in there. And get ready with the stirring stick. Drip, drip, drip. That'll do, because I went, I should put 52 grams in that, so that's not going to. Right, and then we'll start stirring. And it'll go cloudy. And the more we mix it, the clearer it gets. Mixing. So like I say, hopefully this might be the last pour, it might not. We might have to do another one after this. So we'll wait and see. We're not in a rush, it doesn't matter. It takes us another couple of days for pouring and hardening even. And that's what it does. That's what it takes. What it takes is what it is. There's no point rushing when you're doing resin work, because all you're going to do is run the risk of cracking it. And like I said earlier, if it cracks, it's in the bin. There's nothing you can do to get that back. Once it's gone, it's gone. So why risk it? Especially as it's not, like I said earlier, it's not a particularly cheap thing to do. Time you add up the cost of everything. So why run the risk? So we'll just start pouring away quite happily now. It'll find its own level. No, I don't think that's far off, you know. We might actually do a smaller pour, something in there. Don't know what it is, but we'll fish it out. I'm not sure if I got that. Never mind. If not, I'll get one. Still there. Got it. Whatever it was, I got. Oh, there we go. So I may do, yeah. There's still a tiny bit of that cloud structure. Just touching the top. We don't want that. So we're gonna have to do another pour, maybe a 50, I think, not another 100. Because we're getting to the height that we want now. Pretty much. I think that's all the air bubbles gone as well. I'm pretty sure that's all the air bubbles gone. Right, so we'll see you in a nanosecond in 36 hours or so. and we'll see how far we get. There we go. Right then, so nice and hard again. I'm just going to do one little tiny pour. There's still the tops of clouds just poking through a tiny little bit. And we're going to be careful. We can't go too deep because we're getting to the height limit of the page. So we're probably just going to do a 50 and basically just run it in until it covers up the tiny few strands that are poking out, and then we'll leave it 24 hours. It's now Sunday, so Monday, probably Monday afternoon, we'll strip it and then get it out there. I'll strip it out of its mould and then get it in the book and see how it looks. That's the plan. So, scales. Resin's there. Sturdy stick. And a couple of disposable half-pint glasses. And let's crack on with it. So, turn on the scales. So this is just a little top off pour really, just to get it all smooth at the top, make sure there's nothing. There are a couple of little lumps which is not high enough. Well, like I say, we've got to be very careful we don't go too high. We don't want it poking out the book, we want it in the book. Well, like I say, it's all experimental stuff, and we've got 12 centimetres, I reckon, in the pages. We're getting pretty close to 12 centimetres now, so it's literally just going to be a very thin layer to cover up the very, very tops of the clouds that are just, you can just see it's quite rough, little bumps. So we'll just, it's basically just a skim. That's 50, 25 of this. A bit extra for the weight of the cup and a little bit that we're going to lose. 28. Throw it in there. Give it a scale for a minute. Pop them down there for a sec. Yeah, and then give him a stir. And we'll keep stirring until it goes nice and clear. And then we're all good to go. Now, I don't know what this is going to be like in a few years' time. I've been reading the information and it has UV inhibitors in it, but resin is prone to yellowing over the years, so hopefully, touch wood, it won't. We'll keep it out of bright sunlight. I don't think we should have a problem, but if it does, it does. That's out of our control, really. But hopefully it won't, and this will last for years and years and years, displayed on a shelf. And it's something different at the end of the day. Resin book art. The subject of the book actually leaping out of the book at you. That was the whole point of the experiment, to see if it can be done, and I'm liking it. I am liking it. Rescue that. Right then. So literally just going to pour a bit in until it covers what we need it to cover. about right. 50 grams is about right. That's just covered everything nicely. Happy with that. So there we go. Now we'll leave that, like I said, we'll leave that probably a good 36 hours actually. So everything then is properly gone off and hard and wonderful. And then we'll strip it all off and see what it looks like in the book. So the next time we see this, hopefully, we'll be in the book in a nanosecond. 36 hours for me. Time machine thing, isn't it? We're done. We're back and we're done. I've just cracked the mould, taken the 2 end pieces off, and then let's get him out. There we go. That's what we've ended up with. A nice solid wedge. Scenery, clouds and a Spitfire. So let's plonk him in the book. We've got some tidying up to do. We've got some edges to trim, obviously. So we'll just plonk him in the book and see exactly what it looks like. The subject of the book in the book. And that is Resin book art. Got that one, and we've got Das Boot in Das Book as well. So that's how we do it. Coming up next, I'm going to try and attempt to do space. Air was difficult. It looks like water. At the end of the day, it's resin. We're never going to change that. It was just an experiment to see if it worked. I think it worked out. It's not too bad. You've got the force perspective. You've got the fields at the bottom and the clouds and the Spitfire coming out. But we're never ever going to be able to attain pure, clear, what looks like air. It's as good as we can get, and I quite like it. It's different. At the end of the day, it's different. It was an experiment. The same with Das Boot. Water works fantastic. I do like Das Boot. It was a prototype. It was the first ever one I did, and in retrospect, I should have gone a lot deeper. I should have gone to the same depth as this one, but it was a trial. We're giving it a go. So coming up next, we're going to try and do space. Like I said earlier, I've got an X-Wing. I need to get hold of a Star Wars book to put it in. And at the moment there's lockdown, so it depends when we can get hold of one. We'll crack on and we'll try space next. But there you go. Resin book out. You got to try these things, Give it a go. See what you can come up with. I've got, like I said earlier, I've got Moby Dick to do as well. And the Star Wars one. So we'll have a crack. See what it looks like, and I'll see you in the next one then. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you soon. Oh, it's a time machine.